by Amazon Echo. Always ready, connected, and fast. Just ask. And that is beautiful Seneca Lake in the background. Actually, it has a maximum depth of 618 feet. That's the deepest of the Finger Lakes.
Rick, one name you might not see on the leaderboard right now would be that of Carl Edwards. What's going on? You're still in the garage here.
I don't know if they're worried about me driving it or what, but they said, just sit back, we got some changes to make, we're in no rush. Change the transmission right now. Made a pretty long change to steering, and we're just going to focus on qualifying trim. I feel like we got a pretty good race car. Stanley Toyota was good in race trim. Made a long run last practice, so now it's just gear up for qualifying.
And you and I were just talking about the racetrack a little bit, just to repave what I was seeing down there in the interlude. What are you feeling out there on the racetrack? What's really stuck out to you that's been different that you guys are really finding challenging?
Well, a couple things, and the one thing you pointed out was that curving, that second left-hander in the bus stop. I've hit that wrong a couple times, and it feels terrible. But for the most part, the pavement's beautiful. You know, more than the most part, almost all of it. All the curving's nice. There don't seem to be any real treacherous spots, especially in the high-speed section. So it's going to be a good race.
It's Carl Edwards. He's focusing on qualifying runs right now, guys.
A lot of guys doing mock qualifying runs, including the 24 of Chase Elliott.
Wasn't Parker just in the spikes there?
He's pretty good. Okay. And with more on the 24 of Marty.
Out making a qualifying trim run, and there too going to do just one lap, Rick. You know, where Parker was a moment ago, the bus stop. Guess who's there spotting for Chase Elliott this weekend? Bill Elliott, his dad. He's had some success at road courses in the past. There's the qualifying lap for Chase Elliott ending just now, and he jumped up the chart just a little bit. You know, I talked to Alan Gustafson. He said, we got the car so much better as that practice went along. We were starting where we're at in the test, but that car was so tight at the beginning of that first practice session that that final run we made in the first session was the best it had been, and finally got back to where it was in the chase. And you see Chase, or back in the test, I should say, you see Chase trying to hit that shortcut to get back to the garage area, guys.
Yeah, that shortcut, Rick, is basically right after turn one. You can take a hard 180 and go back up the access road, because you want to add tape for qualifying, just like an oval, and you don't want to run the whole entire cooldown lap. Plus, it's a narrow, fast track. To be running slow up the S's can be dangerous. But remember, Rick, that's something that we're going to see in qualifying is cars getting in other cars' way. That's something we see a lot of this group qualifying at the road courses.
Yeah. Jeff Gordon once again, and he's getting some smoke. Yeah, might have got on the brakes a little hard.
Yeah, just locking up the right front brake. That's something we see a lot at this racetrack. As you go down into turn one, you're going downhill, but when you turn the car, all the weight leaves the right front tire. So the right front tire gets light, and it's easy to lock that right front up.
For Jeff Gordon's birthday yesterday, he has the opportunity to race on Sunday. I think that was Rick Hendrick's birthday present to Jeff Gordon.
I'm not sure that's what Jeff Gordon asked for, but he got it.
He goes through the carousel.
See Jeff enter the carousel really low, kept the car all the way on the bottom, all the way to the carousel. Some cars we see leave a little bit, come up the racetrack just a little bit in the middle of the corner, and then turn and leave on the very bottom. Jeff went all the way around the racetrack on the very bottom, which I think is what you want to do, especially in racing. Because if you leave that hole open for somebody, they tend to want to get their nose in there. In racing, I definitely like that line.
And again, Jeff Gordon is filling in for Dale Earnhardt Jr., who actually made a trip to the track today, went and spoke with the media center, and then had the opportunity to go hang out in the garage. He tweeted this after practice, was nervous to do it, but I'm glad I came to Watkins Glen today. It was cool to visit with friends, fans, the media teams, and drivers. This was a little of the excerpts of what he had to say earlier to the media.
I have every intention of honoring my current contract. I sat with Rick before this happened a couple months ago to talk about an extension, and that's the direction that we are going. And that's, you know, as soon as I can get healthy and get confident in how I feel and feel like that I can drive a car and be great driving it, then I want to drive. I want to race. I miss the competition. I miss being here. I miss the people. And, you know, as Rick likes to say, we got unfinished business. But I'm not ready to stop racing. I'm not, you know, I wasn't wasn't ready to not ready to quit. So I just it's a slower process. I wish it wasn't. I don't know how long it's going to take, and as impatient as I am, I worry about everyone else's patience as well. But I'm not going to go in the car until the doctors clear me. The doctors won't let me race. This is not my decision. But it's the right decision, and I trust what my doctors are telling me. And when they say I'm good to go, I believe them. And if they say I'm healthy and I can race, I'm going to race.
I love that. A matter of fact that jumps about that.
He actually had two lighthearted moments. One of those was just leading into that, because that was Nate Ryan who asked the question, more or less about your future, your career, everything, and he responded to Nate in kind of a funny way. He said, you didn't say the word. And Nate was like, all right, retire. It's like, no, I'm not ready to do that. I've got a year on my contract, talked about contract extension. The other funny part was when he talked about visiting his sister's house and hanging out with his sister's kids, and he talked about the anxiety level and the fact that he's supposed to be working on his anxiety level. And he said, well, that's working, hanging out with my sister's kids.
Marty. Well, Rick, it was kind of cool to see Dale Earnhardt Jr. kind of hanging around with the race team all afternoon long. He stayed for the entire first practice session. He has taken off and headed back towards Mooresville, North Carolina, and back to start his recuperation and get back to the doctor's appointments as well. But it was cool to see him talk to the team members and hang out with them. You see him coming into the garage area, you see him kind of hanging out with everybody. When the guys had a moment, he was shaking everybody's hand, just kind of talking to them and seeing how the last couple of weeks have been without him in the race car. I wanted to say thank you for all that they've done for him over the last couple of weeks. And then in terms of Jeff Gordon, he got to hang out with him as well. Jeff in the race car right now, though, struggling a little bit. They made a lot of changes to this 88 car in between practice sessions. Jeff Gordon struggling with a very tight race car. They also changed some transmission ratios in the car as well. Got to get that feel in the car that Jeff Gordon's looking for. Remember, he's never driven for guys at a road course before, so Greg really didn't know what to put in the race car. So they're kind of working their way through that, dealing with a tight race car as well, and trying to make a long race run right now.
So they're still on a different strategy of working on race runs and trying to figure out the longer runs. A lot of guys have already switched over and tried to work on the qualifying runs. But Jeff Gordon, you look at his career in 46 starts, 9 wins on the road courses.
Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart combined 17 wins here, both in the race this weekend. It's not just here in Sonoma. I really think that, way back when, Jeff, we talked about road course ringers. There really wasn't a ton of success, but we always saw a bunch of names pop up that we brought in just for these two races. And I really think that Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon maybe took that to heart and it hurt their feelings a little bit, because they proved the point. Listen, I think the Sprint Cup guys can do it. If we put our minds to it, they really put a full force effort into it. You see the 17 wins.
Yeah, it's definitely paid off for both Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart. Between the two of them, 17 wins. The rest of the field combined, only 13 wins. As far as road course wins, both in Sonoma and Watkins Glen. Gordon will bring it to the attention of the crew once again.
So we heard Jeff talking about being tight, and tight means the car just doesn't turn. You turn in the wheel, you can't get it to go where you want it to go. So watch Jeff Gordon enter turn 1. The goal is to be on the very bottom, right against the curb. It's a good 3 feet off the curb. That's because he cannot get the car to turn. He knows how far he wants to drive the car into the corner. See right here? It's 2 or 3 feet off the curb. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're competing and people are trying to pass you, you're trying to get to turn 2 as quickly as you can, that 2 or 3 feet is huge. So the way to fix that is to slow your entry speed down to make sure you get to the bottom. But Jeff Gordon knows that in practice, you don't slow your entry speed down in practice. You have to get the car so you can drive the car to the corner the way you need to drive the car. So now the front turn's good. But the way to fix that is to just slow it down. Just slow the entry speed down. But you don't do that in practice.
Right.
You do that in the race. In practice, you push the car hard and you try to find the weaknesses of the car. If you miss the bottom, then why did I miss the bottom? And if you feel like it was you, the driver, that made that mistake, then you fix you. But if you feel like that's how far you need to drive in the corner to be competitive, then you work on the race car.
One of the interesting things about racing, there isn't a coach that is telling you how to do each turn or do anything different to make yourself faster.